Hey everybody, welcome back to Airsoftology Mondays, the show that answers your questions, helps you out in a pinch. It is back from one and headed to another. That's right, this is like season right now, the big, busy event, games, all kinds of stuff. Just finished up a weekend at the Rock Airsoft in Missouri. For all of you that came out and hung out, it was so much fun. Thank you for coming out there and playing and all kinds of crazy, cool stuff. You are all super awesome. Also, coming up next, because I'll be heading out at the end of this week, to these guys right here. JTech MilSim, Operation Jackal 2. It's in Colorado. It's just south of Denver. Unfortunately, it is sold out. So if you didn't book early when I was telling you about this a few weeks ago, you missed it. But I will be there doing a big 2-day MilSim event, checking them out. They've got a lot of cool stuff going on, great rules, and probably one of the best squad organization systems I've seen from a MilSim event company where you can move yourself around. You don't have to like send people messages. I think it's fantastic. So really looking forward to that. It's gonna be a huge, like it's gonna be a 2-dayer. I'll be doing a vlog from that. And by the way, I'll have a vlog from this last weekend too. So you guys can watch and see what happened, and maybe you guys made the vlog, who knows? And then of course, gameplay as well. I'll be getting a little bit of gameplay from the MilSim event at Operation Jackal 2 as well. So if you guys are gonna be there, I can't wait to see you guys in Colorado. Aside from that, we're gonna jump into questions here in a second. But before, if this is your first time here or you guys don't know how it works, it's simple. To get your question on the show, you put it down in the comment section below and you vote up your favorites. Make sure they get to the top. Hit that little thumbs up button. I also dig deep. I read them every single week, every single one in the week prior to when I actually go to record the next one. So I do remember a lot of them I see and I try to get to those the next week. So be persistent. Keep doing that if you guys don't get answered immediately. Well, aside from now that you know where I'm going to be and how this whole thing works, let's dive on into what you're really here for, and that's your questions in the Tippmann mail call. Obturnix writes, in all your years of Airsoft, what's the worst injury or someone else's injury you've seen? I've had a few nasty bleeders, usual bumps, bruises, scrapes, that kind of stuff. Really bad cramp one time in my leg. I mean, like, it took me down because I didn't hydrate. But those are kind of my injuries. Normally, you know, strains, sprains, those kind of stuff. It happens when you try to jump over stuff and be crazy. But I've seen some bad ones. I've seen probably the worst compound fracture. I've seen people, a lot of lost or chipped teeth. I've seen some real nasty bleeders, people getting just smoked up close full auto, like up and down the arms. So I think that's kind of the run-of-the-mill of the airsoft injuries. Usually airsoft injuries are going to be from falls or something outside of the contact sport of airsoft where people are shooting each other. I mean, short of getting a little blood from a shot, those things heal up, they're gone in a week, no real big deal. But yeah, the other ones, usually someone who doesn't have good boots on, is not prepared. Usually it's a heat casualty. That's very, very, very common. And then of course, some of those people like going across things they shouldn't go across and slipping and falling and having a really bad day, hence the fractures and things like that. So really that's been it. Thank goodness, knock on wood over here on the desk, that's all I've witnessed and seen. And of course you guys know the famous Jet worst airsoft injury ever too. If you guys haven't seen that video, definitely check it out. He got a pretty nasty one at one of the events a couple years ago. I forget, I think it was Scranton, New Jersey, if I recall, one of the John Liu events, one of the Lion Claws, Operation Lion Claws events. But yeah, that's it for my list, and hopefully I'm gonna keep it that way. Azriel writes, hey Jonathan, I'm from France and I watch many American airsoft videos and I realized that there's very few gas blowback rifles used in your country. Do you know why? Couple reasons. One, climate in a lot of the US is variable, so the areas where you can use it all year long are like Florida and California, places in maybe South Texas that are perennially warm, if that's the right use of that word. Those are good places for gas blowback. You have a long, like longevity and use of it. But again, you're in France, so you do have full 4 seasons there as well. I think the other really, really big reason is the ATF or the BATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms here in the United States, that regulates what is a firearm and what is not, considering that most airsoft gas blowback guns can, in their eyes, be modified to fire at least one bullet when mated up and matched up and all that, because they're pretty realistic in the way they're built. Again, you've got to have a ton of skill and a machine shop and be a gunsmith and all. It's crazy what you have to go through to make these things work. But with their tests, they do that. They say they want to make sure everything, you know, is that. So there's only really a couple gas blowback rifles that are legal, truly legal to import in the United States, namely the KWA LM4 gas blowback rifle. That one has been ATF approved. All the other ones, They're in approval processes. Of course, some of these are overseas companies like WE and other ones where there's just no approvals. They're not going to bother with the United States market. There's a lot of great ones I'd love to see, like VFC's got some good stuff, Western Arms, Oil Vipertech. Golly, so many good gas blowback rifles out there. GHK. Oh man, I got to play with the GHK when I was in Red Wolf in Hong Kong. Oh, I'd love one of those. So awesome. It was actually Max. Shout out to Max. Let me mess around with his rifle. But yeah, that's really the reason. It comes down to legality. And you would think it's kind of crazy because, you know, the United States, tons of guns and we can own everything. But considering you can make that conversion even just once and it's some crazy oddball way, it does make it very difficult and it does get rejected. And of course, then it becomes a true firearm and you got all kinds of legal problems with that. Booty and BBs writes, do you recommend cutting a spring or installing a new one? The poor man's FPS reduction trick. And if you guys don't know what I mean, cutting a spring, it's actually taking a AEG spring, the spring that's like yay long, about that big around, nice big thick piano wire, which is what they're made of, is actually piano wire if you didn't know that, and taking it and chopping a coil off. Kind of the rule of thumb is one coil equals around 15 feet per second reduction. So you chop one off and it comes off. Now, it does affect the spring, especially if it's what they call a variable pitch spring, which means the coils aren't all perfectly equal. They like get tighter here, then they're bigger here, and they're tighter in the middle, and bigger toward the back, and then tighter again at the end. Those are a little more interesting to cut. You're going to get a little less consistency when you make those cuts and things like that. But if you need to cut it for a quick FPS drop, you can do it. Absolutely, you can do it. Personally, for me, I'm just going to buy another spring, especially some of the newer springs, because you can cut them too short, and then you deal with an issue of not having enough compression, enough rebound, I guess, holding that piston in place in the right spot, or everything won't return in time. So there are some challenges when you have a spring that is too short if you cut it too much. So that's not something I would like go home and go, oh, I want to drop it 50 feet per second. And Jonathan said it was, all right, so like 3.5 coils and it should be good, right? That you can end up with the spring too short and have a problem. So if you know what you're doing, you got to take a coil off, you can do it. I've done it before to drop it, but it does put a lot of pressure on the spring guide in a different way because it's not now flat, and usually they machine the end of the spring, so like the spring's like a tube. Instead of it just ending in like a sharp coil just hanging out there, they'll machine it down or grind it down so it's nice and flat and it sits against that spring guide nice and pretty. So if you have to do it, yes, but if you have the money, I mean, springs are cheap. They're like 15 bucks or less. So I'd say pick up a new spring if you can. All right, that's it for questions this week, which means it is time for the Code Red Headsets video recommendation of the week. And this one comes from, I know I've been doing a lot of small, like great YouTube channels, Airsoft Caroline and a bunch of other great smaller YouTubers. But this one is a big YouTuber, definitely a big one, Greg Wong, aka Spartan117GW, and I have to give him a huge shout out for making a massive change in Airsoft gameplay videos, and that's why I want to share this one with you. It's a Ghost Recon Wildlands theme, is kind of the theme of the video, but he's gone in third person, and you're going, well, everybody's done third person before, you know. BRAINEXPLODER has third person mount, and Average does third person with the camera over his shoulder. That's what it means, third person, so it's kind of back there over, you can kind of see the person's head and a little bit of their shoulder in. He's using a GoPro Karma gimbal that's mounted in there with the new GoPro 5 in it, Hero 5, and the way this footage is freaking awesome. I love it. It's super smooth. When he goes prone, the camera stays level, so it doesn't, you don't end up seeing the dirt. You get a great perspective of him shooting. You can see the people around him. I think this is amazing. And for him to kind of put these pieces together and start cranking out something like this is great. I've been looking for something new and exciting in the Airsoft gameplay because, let's face it, it's all kind of the same. That's why you really don't see me do too much of it, really, because it's kind of the same thing over and over again. But to see a change in something refreshing like this is so cool. So if you guys haven't subscribed to Greg's channel, which is Spartan117GW, definitely go check it out. I have a link, of course, in the description below so you can do it. Mash that sub button if you guys like what you see. He's got tons of reviews and gameplay and all kinds of cool stuff. His channel's been around for a long time. In fact, it was about as long as mine, or maybe almost as long as mine. So he's been doing this for quite a while. And if you guys do like it and you do hit that mash that subscribe button, definitely let him know I sent you over there and tell him I said, hey, how you doing? All right, guys, that's it for this week. And as always, thank you for hanging out here and being so cool in the comment section below, helping each other out and asking those great questions. Also, if you guys haven't checked it out, web store is up. I might, at the time of this video, have a handful of the Corgi patches, which are right there if I'm pointing to the right spot and using my screen as a guide. Hang on, I'll just, shameless promotion. Here we go, get close. These guys right here, so I don't rock the camera. I have a few of these left in stock. I got a restock of them, very limited quantity. I think 160, 180 of them came in, and they go like well over 100 were gone in like the first couple days. So they may or may not be up there, but I also got some new stuff, tons of new t-shirts in the store as well. And all that stuff does go to help support Airsoftology and keep this show up and running and keep it free, because that's awesome. That helps a bunch. But anyway, guys, thanks a bunch, and I'll see you next week. Until then, go out, play some Airsoft, have some fun. But no matter what you do, call your freaking hits.